Hello everyone and welcome to episode 43 of my Human Mage playthrough. Right off the bat, I just want to say that I got a brand new microphone and I'm still testing around with it. So I did some sample recordings and it seemed to sound good, but I am making this recording here where it's a little bit more authentic and we'll see how it is, and then I'll adjust settings in the future to make it better. But today we are going to go on a big adventure, and at the start of the episode here I'm going to go ahead and pick up a couple of quests. We have one quest in here called Mage's Behest, where we can go ahead and read this here that says, as caretaker of the works here in the library of the Academy of Arcane Arts and Sciences, it is my responsibility to ensure all the magical tomes and scrolls are accounted for at all times. Who knows what folly would unfold if some of these enchanted texts were to fall into the wrong hands. Which reminds me, my assistant Dellis made a horrible mistake last week. He's quite able in the library, but incompetent when he leaves the gates of Stormwind. Be a hero and help old Dellis out, would you? So we can go ahead and come up here, and then we can chat with Dellis, who says it was a simple mistake, a wrong turn, I tell you. And then he says, Master Mason's directions are quite easy. Deliver a very important essay to Watcher Mahar Ba and Netherguard Keep. But I have never been to the Blast Lands before. The journey was frightening. When I got to the Swamp of Sorrows, I made a wrong turn and ended up surrounded by horrible plant-like swamp creatures. They lurched as if to attack me, so I ran. But in my haste, I dropped the essay. One of the beasts took it, I'm sure. Could you please try to retrieve it and deliver it to Mahar Ba? So we can go ahead and head to two brand new zones this episode, where we are going to be exploring the Swamp of Sorrows, and then we are going to get our first look at the Blast Lands, which is actually a level 55 to 60 zone, basically, or 50 to 60 technically. So we are not going to be doing a lot of quests there this episode, but we are going to head over there and we're going to get our little first sneak peek at it. But we are going to be spending a lot of time in the Swamp of Sorrows, and we have a few different quests that we are going to be doing in that zone, and we have another quest up here that we can pick up that's also going to take us to Netherguard Keep. So I think it's kind of good that we go ahead and pick this up. So let's go ahead and run up here to the Mage Tower, and then we can go ahead and chat with High Sorcerer Andromath, who is right up here, I believe. And then we can go ahead and pick up this quest of vital supplies, and then we can talk to Watchmaster Sorgo in Darkshire to bring some supplies to Netherguard. So let's go ahead and head over to Darkshire because we have all these quests now, and then we can go ahead and make our way into the Swamp of Sorrows. Having arrived in Darkshire, let's go ahead and run down here, and then we have the Watchmaster right here, which we have a level 45 quest, so it's a little bit higher level than us, but it should be fine, where we can complete this quest. And now we have supplies for Netherguard, where we can bring the Power Stones to Netherguard Keep. And now we can go ahead and begin on our journey. And I said earlier that there are going to be two new zones we are looking at. There's actually going to be three new zones in this episode because I completely forgot about Deadwind Pass, which is a really interesting zone because there's not a lot of stuff going on in this zone. There's like no quests really. The biggest part of the zone is Medivh's Old Tower, Karazhan, which, as most of you know, becomes a raid in the Burning Crusade, the first expansion for World of Warcraft. But in vanilla, there were some ideas and like intentions for the zone, but overall there's like not too much going on. And we see that we are heading into Deadwind Pass right now as we leave Duskwood behind us. The environment completely changes, and we are at Dead Man's Crossing, and the sign here says, "Turn back, abandon hope, all ye who enter here." So let's go ahead and enter here, and then we see that there's a Sky Shadow right there, which is a question mark beast. I believe it's like a level 60 beast, and we're just going to ignore all of that for now. We can see it's a pretty small zone, and we're just going to run through it right now, and then when we're level 60 we might poke our head back in here just to do a little bit of exploration and to take a look at the tower that we can see way off there in the distance. But we are going to go ahead and keep going forward here on the road, because coming right through here, through this like very dangerous and scary looking area, we can go ahead and enter the Swamp of Sorrows, which is an important location for Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, which is where basically the orcs kind of came through this area and basically came from here and headed towards like Blackrock Mountain and Stormwind and all these other places around here. The Blasted Lands is just south of Swamp of Sorrows, and it itself used to be a swamp as well. I believe it used to be called the Black Morass, but here we see in front of us is a swamp that kind of looks a little bit like Stranglethorn Vale, but like a little bit more swampy compared to like a jungle environment. But we can go ahead and come down here, and then we have on our map here, we can see that we have a bunch of objectives around here, and we are basically just going to work on a bunch of different quests around here. And I think this zone is kind of like level 35 to like level 45. We have a level 37 spider right there, and we also have a ton of these orc scouts that are going to be along the road here that we are going to want to avoid, because there's a big horde camp here in the Swamp of Sorrows, but there's not much going on for the Alliance. The closest encampments for the Alliance is over in Netherguard Keep and then also in Darkshire, which is very interesting, and I like that quite a bit. But we are going to go ahead and start fighting some of these swamp walkers, because for the first quest here I want to work on Mazen's Behest. So basically we are just going to spend a ton of time here casting frostbolts and all of our other spells at all these swamp walkers. And then this is a very kind of like interesting quest because it is infamous for being a very, very long quest to complete, where you have to spend a long time fighting these swamp walkers, and we did not get it on our first one. So now I'm going to have a little bit of a kill montage where we fight a bunch of these. Well, that ended up being pretty quick, so we can now pick up some other quests to do in this zone. Also, look at how cool this bridge is. I love it so much. We have this quest here to kill a bunch of wildlife around the Swamp of Sorrows, so let's do just that. And now that we have completed this quest, let's go ahead and continue on with doing some more quests around the zone. And I'm just going to show a little bit of footage as we do a bunch of different quests here. And I want to talk about a specific piece of lore, which is about the Draenei, which Swamp of Sorrows is, I believe, the only zone in vanilla World of Warcraft where we see the Draenei. And they were known here, or they were kind of retconned here as being the Broken Ones, which is kind of like a subset of the Draenei race, where we know with the Burning Crusade, which is the first expansion after the launch of vanilla World of Warcraft, where we get a lot more story about the Draenei, which we might explore more in the future. And it kind of changes everything we kind of knew about the Draenei and their like state and like their spot in the world, where they were basically kind of shown to be like a weak and dying civilization, which is definitely true with what we learned about them in the Burning Crusade, but they end up being a little bit more powerful than what we thought. And they basically arrive in Kalimdor on like a broken, destroyed ship that was sabotaged, and then the Alliance helps them and brings them into their ranks, and they become enemies of the Horde. And then of course the Blood Elves become the Horde as the counterpart to the Draenei in the Burning Crusade. But the Swamp of Sorrows is really interesting because we get to experience a little bit of this, because we actually meet the Draenei in Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne expansion, where we were dealing with Illidan and Arthur storylines and stuff, where basically Illidan goes to Outlands and meets Akama, which is a Draenei, and then we of course meet Akama in the Burning Crusade as well, a little bit of a sneak peek towards that. But vanilla World of Warcraft is really the story of Warcraft 3 that is now like a multiplayer experience that you can play in like an open world with other people. So like all these storylines from Warcraft 3 kind of just go straight into like World of Warcraft. So we kind of see a little bit about like the whole Dark Portal storyline, which we are kind of experiencing a little bit in the Swamp of Sorrows. The Draenei here, the Draenei came through the Dark Portal because they're originally from Draenor, as they named the planet Draenor, I believe, when they arrived there fleeing from the Burning Legion. But then of course you have the orcs from Draenor as well, which is now known as the Outlands. And we see their camps around here as well, and they have of course joined the Horde after all of their experiences throughout Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, and Warcraft 3, where they actually founded the Horde via Thrall, who is the Orcish war chief from Lordaeron, who went to Kalimdor, and all that storyline that we talked a little bit about, and we'll probably talk more about again in the future. But it was really interesting to be able to experience this in like vanilla World of Warcraft, because this is just like a really unique like story and idea, and it's kind of like off-putting coming to this from someone who played starting in the Burning Crusade, where the Draenei were very established, and like I knew who the Draenei were, and I had played like a Draenei hunter. But then I come to the Swamp of Sorrows, and then there's like all this storyline and like these quests here with the Broken Ones. It was just really interesting. And then it's also a little interesting to look back on it all saw here in classic World of Warcraft, where we have these quests here that we have dealt with. But overall, the Draenei and the Swamp of Sorrows don't have too much story going on. They don't have too big of an impact on the world, and the big Draenei stories begin in the Burning Crusade, and it's just a little bit of stuff here in vanilla World of Warcraft. But beyond all that, we have more stuff in the Swamp of Sorrows as well, where we can see Stonard right here, which is really fun. This is one of the Horde camps that I believe was established during the events of Warcraft 1, and then it's still here now as part of like the new Horde that was established by Thra. And then we can head further east and we see the Temple of Atal-Hakar, which we talked about a few episodes ago when we were in Stringthorn Vale, I believe, where this is basically some more troll storyline, and it's also some of the Green Dragonflight storyline, which we haven't talked too much about the Dragonflights yet. But then I just went further to the east and I went to the shore to kill some of the Murlocs around here and collected some of the sun-dried driftwood, and then killed some crawlers to get their claws, and I completed all those quests and headed back west to be able to turn in the driftwood quest we have here. And then I went a little bit west because I just wanted for a few moments to kill some of the green dragonflight whelplings around here, which if you remember when we were in the wetlands, there were red whelplings in the wetlands that we could fight, and if we fought them, there was a chance, a very small chance, for them to drop a red dragon whelp companion pet. And then we see here there is a very small chance to kill a green dragon whelp companion pet, and I only killed like 5 of them just to like shoot my shot at getting the companion pet, and I did not get it, but it's just a little bit of a fun thing, and I got like a very tiny amount of experience from it, and I believe we also explored all of the Swamp of Sorrows here. But that's all I did with this area. But now that we are done with all the quests here in Swamp of Sorrows, we have explored the entire map, and we have completed all of them except for one escort quest, which I really did not want to do. We can now head to the Blasted Lands, where I have 4 quests to turn in, and we can get our first sneak peek of this land. We will return here when we are level 55, but in the meantime, we are just going to get a sneak peek of the northern tip here. But as we come into the entrance of the Blasted Lands here, we have an individual known as the Fallen Hero of the Horde here that we can chat with, and he says it's hard to imagine that so much death and despair could be confined to such a small area. Yet beyond the swamp is a land plagued by chaos and destruction. Watch your step, adventure. The Blasted Lands are the final resting place to far greater beings than you. So let's watch our steps as we enter into the Blasted Lands here, and we can see that it changes drastically from the green of the Swamp of Sorrows into this damaged and destroyed and distorted lands of this area of the Eastern Kingdoms, which we can see the land here on our maps. And I think if we come down here a little bit, we'll be able to see a creature off in the distance, which I don't think we're going to see the level of even if we are able to select it. And we have 2 quest givers there, which we are going to be returning to in the future. Oh, we have a Starving Snickerfane right there, which is level 46, which I feel like is lower than I remember. So maybe we'll return here before level 55. Maybe it's like around level 50 actually. But nevertheless, it is going to be a little bit until we come back here. But here we have some Netherguard miners, and we can see off in the distance here is Netherguard Keep, which is an incredibly important place from Warcraft 2, of the expansion to Warcraft 2, and in the book Beyond the Dark Portal, which just is basically established to watch over the Dark Portal, which we might be able to catch a glimpse of off in the distance here. And I'll just come over here a little bit, and I really want to avoid any of the enemies around here, but let's see if we can see it. But we'll get closer to it when we return here in the future. I think it is just a little too far away from our loading distance right here, but we can see the edge of a crater right there, and right beyond it is the Dark Portal. So we will return here in the future, but in the meantime, let's go ahead and come up this road here, and we can enter into Netherguard Keep, and then we have a flight path here we can unlock, which is very, very nice, so we can return here without having to run from Darkshire through Deadwind Pass, through the Swamp of Sorrows, and in to the Blasted Lands. And then we have 4 quests that we can turn in as well. So I think first things first, I'll go ahead and go get the flight path just so I remember it. And then we'll probably use this flight path at the start of the next episode to go do a bunch of different stuff around the world, because I'm thinking next episode we will be doing just that, where we have a ton of quests and a ton of different locations, and then there are some very special locations that I want to explore, and I might just have next episode be a world trekking episode. But let's go ahead and get this flight path right here, And then we have our quest individual right here, Quartermaster Lungirds, which we have 3 of the quests, one of which is like a daily quest, kind of, where we can turn it in once a day, I believe, where we picked up these lost supplies at like the Draenei camp that we were attacking earlier. But we can turn this in and we get a box of supplies, which I'll open up in a minute because I don't have much inventory space. But let's go ahead and turn in the, I did not look at this at all. So I just realized this quest has a 1-hour timer, so I will go ahead and return to Darkshire, and I'll go pick up this quest really quickly, and then we can just fly here and we'll be able to finish this in less than an hour. Back in Darkshire, I'll just talk to the Watchmaster right here, grab these stones, and then we'll hand the box in to the Quartermaster here, and we'll get our 50 silver. And the last thing we have is the shipment to Netherguard, and we can turn that in. So we have now completed the 3 quests that we have to turn into the Quartermaster here. We gained quite a bit of experience as well as some Stormwind reputation, which we are now 2,184 the way towards Exalted, which is fun. I'm not 100% sure if we'll reach Exalted just from leveling up to level 60 and doing quests, but maybe we will. But if we wanted to get to Exalted, we'd probably have to do some cloth farming along the way. But let's go ahead and run up through the main tower here in Netherguard Keep, and then we can talk to the Watcher at the top for our final quest. Which we have this ambassador who is a member of Beauty Bay, but I think is actually like someone from Quel'Thalas, way up north in the Eastern Kingdoms. But then we can turn in Khadgar's essays on dimensional convergence, and then we can get an item here, which is an upgrade to our belt, which I think I will go ahead and pick this up. Mahar Ball here says, most splendid. For some time I had feared my request for Khadgar's essays on dimensional convergence had been overlooked by Master Mason of the Academy of Arcane Arts and Sciences. He must be bogged down with the request considering the many strange happenings going on. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to begin my research at once. To finally glimpse the insight of one as great as Khadgar excites me to no end. So let's go ahead and equip this belt, and then I need to go ahead and go to a vendor so we can clear this out a little bit, which we have an alchemy supplies vendor right here with a superior healing potion, which I might pick up as well while I trade all my items into her. And then we have this box of supplies here that we can open up, and we got 3 greater healing potions and 2 silver, 75 copper, and I'll take that. I think that's nice. But that is all of our inventory cleared up, and that is all of our quests turned in. And then I think on that note, I'm going to go ahead and call this episode good here. I hope you all enjoyed watching this episode. I very much enjoyed playing through it, and I hope you all are taking good care of yourselves. Remember to drink some water, check your posture, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time in the world of Azeroth. Goodbye.